welcome to another edition of What's Next. My name is Zaki Anastasiou, and it's fantastic to have you with us, and certainly very challenging times for all organizations as organizations navigate the COVID-19 pandemic in different ways. And one of South Africa's well-known, best-known technology organizations globally, in fact, is Oracle, who has many enterprise customers. And it's a great pleasure to welcome Niral Patel, who's the Managing Director for Oracle South Africa. Niral, firstly, a warm welcome to you. I want to find out how your customers are navigating this, but let me start off by saying thank you for joining us. And to ask you, as Oracle South Africa, you've got a huge team of staff members working in South Africa. I often pass your head office through the Buccleuch interchange, and I've often wondered how Oracle South Africa is working, and I imagine most of your team is working remotely. But tell us about Oracle South Africa, Niral, and how's your team navigating this pandemic?
Okay, good afternoon. It's always good to chat to you, so thank you for having me on the show. You know, you're right. We are operating in extremely challenging times. You know, from an Oracle South Africa perspective, I think the transition of moving completely away from the office to home-based working was quite an easy, seamless one. Being a fully cloud-enabled organization allowed us to achieve that with a lot of ease. I think the challenging part came into, you know, whilst you're doing meetings or board meetings or interviews of this nature, one of the biggest challenges was how do you prevent your kids from running into the room and needing something from you, and then wanting to see, you know, which interesting person are you talking to on the Zoom call. So coming back to your question, definitely challenging times. All our employees are working remotely from home. You know, we only have those that are essential in terms of support and skills that our customers need. Those would be traveling to customer sites.
Yes.
But everyone effectively, all our offices in the country and globally are shut, and everyone's working from home.
That is absolutely fascinating. I mean, you're quite right in what you're saying is that Oracle as an organization, you're based in the cloud, right? And you've been ready for this moment for many years. And it's something that you've been preaching to many of your customers. The interesting thing that I'm finding, and I'm sure that the transition for your customers as well, is what seemed impossible at the beginning of March when we knew that this lockdown was coming. We kind of knew that this was going to be indefinite. We kind of knew that this was very serious. How have your customers adapted to this? Because what seemed impossible became possible. And I'm sure for many of your customers, you know, the transition was quite seamless, but there's been quite a bit of adjustment that has had to take place during that process. So you've adapted pretty smoothly as Oracle. How have your customers adapted to this using your technologies?
I think those customers, you know, that have started their digital transformation journeys and are well on their way with those journeys, they found it less challenging. We found those customers that are behind the curve from a digital transformation perspective and embracing the cloud in terms of moving workloads into the cloud, they found it to be quite challenging. So I think it's a mixed bag depending on where customers are in their digital transformation journey, you know, in terms of ease of where they are and how they're providing services to their customers. But one thing's for sure, Aki, you know, this pandemic with all its challenges that it has, I believe presents itself as a major catalyst to digital transformation and driving organizations more aggressively on their transformation journey and more so into the cloud. We're seeing a huge demand in terms of cloud services that we provide. And definitely when I talk about this catalyst in terms of pushing organizations into cloud-based solutions, the level and speed at which innovation is taking place is phenomenal. You know, the services and questions that we are being asked of our customers to help them service their customers is forcing us to think also quite cleverly on how we're providing solutions. And this is across industries, you know, be it financial services, telecommunications, government, etc. So those are some of my views in terms of what we're seeing. But, you know, as much as it's, you know, very challenging, I think exciting for a lot of us.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting you say this, that, you know, there's this massive transformation that's taking place. And really what it's forced many organizations to do is accelerate what they were planning to do 18 months and 3 years from now,
Right.
to do it right now. And it's great that the fact that people have been able to do it, right? Because the cloud is there and it's enabling this incredible transformation. Are you seeing the positive results from this transformation? Because what I'm picking up as well, and I'd love you to touch on the trends that your customers might be seeing, aside from the working from home, I'm seeing that there's a lot of the agility that organizations are enabling and unlocking. They're unlocking a lot of value, and they're also tapping into that big data, that AI, and the analytics space, and it's giving businesses better insights into what they're doing. What trends are you picking up?
Yeah, I think spot on, and you've touched on many of them, right? I think definitely, firstly, it's definitely getting customers to do things differently, but very quickly. I
Yes.
think, if we had this conversation related to the acceleration or the move to cloud that organizations are having, one would use the word procrastination. There was a lot of procrastination around, what should we do? How should we do it? This is definitely just getting customers to start moving a lot quicker. Um, the sweet spot for us as Oracle, and you touched on it, Aki, is data-driven insights. And at the heart of who we are and where we were born from, we are data-driven. We are a data company. So a lot of our customers are looking to us from the product sets that they have installed from us and the solutions that they have from us, is to really harness the value of our strength, which is around data, and helping them make very quick business decisions on what to do next. We're seeing this across the board, in the healthcare space, when the pandemic hit, locally and globally, our ability to assist organizations to use the data that they have and not being able to make very quick and smart decisions on it, but mash that up and really crunch numbers and data models for them to allow them to treat patients differently. To understand that if we treat the patient in this way versus another way, but at the backbone having data to drive that insight and that decision, has effectively saved lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing this transformation and the speed using data-driven outcomes, number one, but the speed to cloud transformation, we're seeing it in a very significant way at this time.
That's absolutely fascinating. And I was reading some insights into some of your customers, and many customers are learning different things about their business. We know about the supply chain and how that was impacted. And I was reading about the medical stuff because I'm really fascinated on how COVID-19 works. And this is a virus, a disease that we hardly knew much about, when we started off. But it's amazing that every single day, through data, through the way patients are being treated, through the way they respond to medication, we are learning new things about this disease and we are treating it differently. And it's all of that data that is intertwined within the hospital groups and in the data collection that's happening on the bedside of a patient that is being analyzed, and Oracle forming a very important role in this regard. So really interesting how you're managing to mine that data and really have positive outcomes for humanity and for human beings themselves. What I find interesting as well is, aside from the fact on how this has been fought, the COVID-19 pandemic has been fought, is the research that Oracle is involved with regards to universities, researchers globally. This collaboration that's happening is absolutely fascinating. Can you share some insights into how Oracle as an organization is helping find solutions to this via vaccine or whatever other way?
I think there's two stories to tell here. One is definitely a global story, that what we're doing in terms of assisting the medical fraternity, the healthcare industry related to the pandemic. And you're right, there's a lot of crunching taking place related to data. Today, the most collected asset is data. Anything we do or we touch or we interact with, there's some sort of data that is tracing us or learning about us, right? So by applying our machine learning algorithms with artificial intelligence in our solutions, we definitely leveraging the data that's being collected, crunching that data, as I said earlier, to provide really key models and insights that are allowing organizations to make clever and smart decisions on one basic thing, to make sure that people are safe, that when people are affected, how can they be treated? At the end of the day, to save lives. So, and a lot of this, Aki, in fact, all of this is being driven out of our cloud solutions. So, this is where we're seeing a huge uptake in how we're servicing customers across industry, be it private or public sector.
Absolutely fascinating. How does the economy, how much does the economy concern you, Niral? And I know that a lot of the banks are using your technology. A lot of organizations are using the technology. It's worrying as a country, but I think that I'm optimistic that, this acceleration that we are undergoing is forcing us to think things differently. It's harnessing that entrepreneurial spirit. But can you give us a backdrop in terms of Oracle and the economy, how concerned you are, or share your optimism going forward?
I think, it's no secret. It's tough times that we're operating in. We're seeing, unemployment rate definitely going up. All the doom and gloom messaging that we're starting to see. But, I don't know who coined the phrase, but never waste a good crisis. Yes. I think that's top of mind for us in Oracle, because, within a crisis, there's always opportunity. And it's for us as multinationals, as local organizations, as partners of Oracle to come together to see what we can just do in these difficult times. And there's a lot. I said earlier, there's two parts to the story. There's a global story and a local story. If you look at what the president has put together in terms of the Solidarity Fund,
yes,
we've made a lot of our platforms available to this fund, freely available, that they can harness our technology to utilize the funds that are coming and make sure that they're dispersed in the correct way. The other thing that we're doing is we're enabling skills for employability. I don't know if you know this, Aki, but we have a school, the Oracle Ponelo Pele Secondary School out in Tembisa. Schools have been shut down. When level 4 hit, one of the first things we did for our grade 11 and 12 pupils was to put in weekends free accounting, physics, and maths lessons to ensure that their learning does not stop, but do it in a safe way. We provided all the scholars with PPE. So, got to come together as a community, as a nation, as people in that nation, as companies, whatever we are and whatever we represent, we've got to come together to aid and facilitate people's lives and make sure that things can get better. Related to the economy, definitely worrying times.
Yes.
This innovation, I think, will, as I said, never waste a good crisis. It creates new opportunities for customers. It creates new opportunities for ourselves. But through these challenging times, we're getting some interesting requests that, as I said earlier, that's forcing us to think differently, right? Some requests are, how do you help us save money? How do we do things differently with our clients? One of the most interesting things that we're seeing right now, I don't think it's any major secret, but do we really need all the real estate space that we have as organizations? Can we work differently, right? I know that creates a different bearing to different organizations, but I think these are the new innovative ways that we are forced to think during this time. So definitely a lot of change to be to look forward to. I think at the backbone of that innovation and a lot of data that's driving a lot of these insights that we're seeing. But definitely new opportunities are coming to the forefront for our customers and for ourselves.
Well, it's certainly very exciting. And, there are so many opportunities out there. And I keep telling people the same thing that you've just been telling me, is that as bad as things are, there are opportunities all over the place. You just need to find them. Finally, for you, Niral, what has been your aha moment? I think it's been very different doing business for every executive on every different level, and we're all learning and discovering new things. Have you had an aha moment throughout this pandemic from the time that lockdown started?
I think two, Aki. I think one was, you test the true level of relationships during these difficult times. And I think I'll relate two. One is a personal story and one is a professional story, but I think they overlap significantly. is, during these difficult times, because we're all at home, right? You in and out of everyone's personal space and hair, so to speak,
Yeah.
on every hour and minute of the day. And I've seen that if you can survive and thrive during these tough times at home, you'll come out a lot better at the end. And that's very true for the business world. And the way I'm seeing it is relationships with our customers, where they've been built on trust, mutual respect, and built on mutual outcomes, will test the time that we're going through. And for me, those have been, I wouldn't say an aha moment, but somewhat of an aha moment. We've known it, but you see it come to the forefront right now. There've been some really firsts for me. Like, we had a virtual graduation very recently for graduates that have been with us for the last 12 months. And it can be done. Yeah. So I think, where there's definitely something that needs to be done and there's no option about it, it definitely demonstrates that it can be done, and we will find a way to do it. And be successful doing it. I think we'll learn a lot of lessons doing it. Obviously, it's not been perfect, but we will do it and we will succeed at it. So those would be my aha moments, where this really tests personal relationships. But the same story, I think one can relate to business relationships.
Completely.
And it will work, provided they're built on trust, as I said, and it's built for mutual outcome. Positively both ways.
Absolutely fascinating. And Niral Patel, Oracle South Africa Managing Director, thank you for sharing those insights with us. We wish you well, we wish you good health, and may Oracle grow from strength to strength. We thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us on What's Next.
Aki, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Take care.